You need two?
No, you can keep that on. You want it on up here?
Good afternoon. I am Chairman David Baer, calling the TDC meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. So the meeting is called to order. Second item of business is public comment. Is there anyone from the public who has signed up to speak? If you haven't, you can sign up. If you'd like to speak, you can sign up afterwards. No public comment? Great. We'll move on through. Thank you. First, I'd like to welcome the new TDC members, the City Council members, Councilman and Chair Jared Moore. Welcome to the TDC. And also Councilman Casey Jones. Welcome to the TDC and congratulations on your recent election. Next order of business is to approve the December 2020 Tourist Development Council meeting minutes. They are in your packet. They were emailed to each of you. Has everybody had a chance to review them? And is there any discussion, or can I entertain a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion accepted. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, call for the vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Well, we have two paragraphs on Darian Schaefer, and it's Ray Palmer reporting.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I can't hear.
This is Ray Palmer reporting. And it says Darren.
I noticed it when we were reading, I'm not good on the computer, but looking at the paper, we have two paragraphs of Ray Palmer instead of Darian Schaefer's report.
She's saying.
So, visitors will updates.
I guess I would, if, I don't know who made the motion, but amend the motion to say that, to update with the proper Visit Pensacola update as opposed to the copy of the Pensacola Sports update.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do you accept that amendment? I mean, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman, I'm
yes.
sorry, former Chairman.
Yes, I do.
So the motion has been amended, and Robert, you second the amendment?
States.
Any other discussion? Not? We'll take that vote again. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. All right, moving on to the status of funds available, TDC Collections and Receipt, Office of Management and Budget. Thank you.
Let me ask a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
At the last meeting, we decided that we're going to have an audit, and then single-handedly, the clerk of the court somehow dissolved that. So what happened?
Well, that is on our agenda later on to discuss it, so I'd like to table that until the,
But I'm just asking you as chairman,
oh,
what happened?
at the, well, and I will address it later, but at the county commission meeting in December, it was discussed, and the clerk of the court told the board that we did not have the authority to call for an audit, and so I was to get back with the clerk to discuss the issues that
So if we want
wanted to
her
address.
to resign because she's being nasty like that, I mean, when do we talk about that?
Well, right, she's here, but I'm not sure we have any authority over that either.
But David and I will
Yes.
meet and
Yes.
address the concerns that's on our list.
It's ridiculous.
Yes. So, all right, back to Office of Management Budget. Thank you.
Hi, Michael Davis here, Treasury Manager, CPA, and I'm actually at the Comptroller's Office, so the report that you guys are actually looking at is prepared by me from the Comptroller's Office. So in the future, we'll amend that so it shows from the Comptrollers versus the OMB. But we'll just jump right into it. So we'll start with the good news. The good news is that our revenues are up at historical levels, and so the reports that you guys have are based off January 20th, which was right around the deadline for when all the reports were due. which in your report, you guys would see about 115,000 for the revenues reported in January, but the final number actually ended up becoming $545,570, which is a increase of 9.3% over the prior year. So we have another historical month. If we are going down from our revenues to our expenditures, the only thing I would really want to the things I would want to point out is we have our $1.7 million that we have paid out to Visit Pensacola, and the other big large item right now is over $730,000 has been paid to the Bay Center, which is all based off our budget. So for our cash balance, we have $5.8 million available, but a lot of that cash is already allocated towards based off our budget as well. So if we want to keep going, I wish it was up on the screen, but the report kind of looks like this. Looks like it's a trend analysis. Should be my second page after my cover page. Is that the one you see, Mr. Bear? Yeah, sorry, it's the trend analysis.
Shows 115,000 for January.
Yes, and that's what I was saying. So the final number for January is actually 545,000.
It's the second or third page in your
Yeah, so
in
you
your
should have a
package of
cover
that folder.
page, and then a title that says revenue expenditures towards development tax. And then the next page, it is multiple years, and it is a trend analysis. On the left-hand side, you should see the months going south. Okay. So in your report, you should see about 115,000 for January, but our final number actually was 545,000, which is a 9.3 increase over the prior year, which is another historic month.
Do you have all collections in already? Because aren't they the remitters, for lack of a better term, are supposed to remit by what date? The 10th or the 20th of the following month?
20th.
The 20th.
So these are December returns collected in January.
Okay, gotcha.
So that was the collection we actually received physically in January.
But do you need to receive it by January 20th or 100% of taxes remitted to the clerk?
So let's say if someone puts a check in the mail or whatnot, and it's post-dated the 20th, and it could also be someone paying late for the prior month and whatnot. So those are all the collections that are based off that we received in January, but it's for December returns.
Right, so you're still anticipating receiving more checks from the hoteliers, et cetera, for the December's collection remitted in January, by
No,
the 20th.
By the 20th, so January 20th is passed.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's February.
Yeah, no, so,
Years passing by quickly.
yep, no worries. So no, January is closed at this point. So the February number will start going up, and that's what we'll see in the next few months. We'll see those numbers jumping up.
All right, thank you.
Yep, my pleasure.
What did you say the January final number was?
$545,570.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's for December, collected in January. So our next page is the cash reconciliation. It's just the following page. So it really is just another summary of kind of what it was posted on the first two pages. So our revenues that you'll see about halfway down the page, that does not include the $545,000. So that would actually boost our cash balance by another right around $400,000, because right in there it's only reflecting the 115 that is on the prior page, and the expenditures are still the same from the cover page that I was speaking about. So if we want to keep going to our last page, it reflects our budget. And the only, so nothing has changed from the last period, but I do want to note that I know we all discussed the county administrative costs at 330, and that is going to be adjusted at the next BOCC meeting to go down to 299,000, which reflects the 3% versus the 330. So that will be adjusted. And one more note is of those agency allocations, the 4%, where it's the African American Heritage, Naval Aviation, Historic Preservation, only $2,500 has been paid out so far this year out of that section, and it was for the African American Heritage.
Nothing has been paid out for the Naval Aviation Museum yet?
No, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question quickly.
Yes.
I was just wondering, when we put out and we advertise for the meeting, the agenda and stuff, does this go out online as a backup material for this meeting, or, and I don't have an answer to that, because this comes to me personally, so I don't go searching for it, but if you were somewhere in Pensacola and you were searching for the backup on this, does that go out?
I think it should be going out, but the agenda was, and the schedule of this meeting was not on the county's website.
Okay, thanks.
So I don't know. Who wants to, Janice?
Look at that. Janice?
Susan?
We're going to put it on Civic Clerk, so it will be out in public now.
Okay,
Before, it was on I think, the Visit Pensacola website previously, so now that we have it and we have Civic Clerk, it'll be posted. I did have the News Journal ad to where the meeting was posted on the
I
News
saw
Journal
it.
ad, so.
The agenda is on the event calendar on our website, on our homepage.
okay.
Yeah, and so so when you click on the agenda, is this back up there as well?
I don't think the backup was there.
Okay, so I'm looking at it now, so we have a new website. If you just go to myescambia.com, you scroll down towards the bottom, right next, on my iPad here, it shows next to the swim with caution flag, it says upcoming events. The TDC is listed. It has an agenda PDF and it has minutes as the attachments, which I don't know if, I think I was previously under under the meetings, and I didn't see it, but it is under the events. So Laura's in the back now. So Laura, it's not under meetings, but it is under the events on our website right now.
Thank you, Commissioner.
We can make some
Thanks.
adjustments because the package is done way ahead of time for you all, and Zanani will put that package together, get it to Laura, it'll be posted right now. She's just been posting agenda and minutes. If you would like to back up, I think that's a great plan.
Thank you.
Zanani will handle it.
I appreciate
Great,
y'all.
thank you.
And it looks like it's under minutes. It doesn't say backup, but it's under minutes, and that includes the entire packet that we have in front of us. So it's 130 pages of backup, but it's listed under minutes on the events, upcoming events
And we can send
page.
that out a little differently with some indexes that'll make it easier to find. Does that work? Zanani will work together on that. We got that.
Okay. Mike.
That was really kind of the end of my report anyways. So, but if there's no other questions, then
Does
I'm
anyone
good to
have
move
any
on.
questions for Michael? No? Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. New business, updates from county administration. Wesley Hall?
Good afternoon, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you. I have the pleasure of presenting a number of great things that are happening and have happened at the Bayfront Center. And we're going to open up with the capital improvement and give you a summary. And this is up as of February of this year. Projects completed, home and visitor locker rooms, arena video boards and scoreboards, clear comm system, And projects that are in progress are fiber upgrade to the internet system, Wi-Fi system, DOS system or DAS system, concession stands, rebranding, point of sale system, digital menu displays, and warmer drawers. Next slide, please. This, as I said, we've had some upgrades to our locker room, and this is on the left of your screen is the before, and on the right of your screen is the after. So you can see it's a significant improvement. I think any team that steps into that locker room is going to be very, very pleasantly surprised. Next slide, please. And this is the home locker room too. And again, it's before and after. It's almost like night and day. And we're just excited about the opportunity to make these changes and see what the athletes and coaches and teams think of these opportunities. Next, please. Visiting locker room number 1. Again, that's a great difference between where we were before and where we are right now. Next slide, please. And then that's just another shot of the visiting locker room number 1. You know, you're going from your own individual little locker system versus a bench, a metal bench that I'm sure was extremely uncomfortable for players coming in and taking a break or at a halftime show.
I think despite these upgrades, our ice flyers are still winning, though. So,
which is a good thing. Next slide, please. This is visiting locker room again. Again, the before and after, quite significant. Next slide, please. And again, another shot of visiting locker room number 2, before and after. Next slide. And then again, another shot at another angle of the visiting locker room. And again, I think the visitors will be very, very pleased. Next slide. And this is a big part of what we've done. The center hung video board, you can see that. That's where we were. Next slide. And that's where we are now. And I can speak from experience. And I went to the first hockey game, and it made an incredible difference in being in that arena. You really felt that you were at a great event, something very, very significant, and something very, very powerful. It changed the whole atmosphere of the arena. And I think if you guys get a chance, get out and take in a hockey game or an event, you're going to be very, very pleasantly surprised. Next slide, please. And those are the corner video boards, which we made a great change to. And again, the whole atmosphere and the whole event, the items surrounding the event now, it's just a pleasure to go out and enjoy an event. Next slide. And these are the end scoreboards. And the great part about those two, the new ones are very, very detailed. You can get all of the information when you sit up there and glance. The old boards, you can get a score and the time, and that's about it. But the detail now is much more enhanced, and it's just a great atmosphere to go see a ball game or a hockey event. Next slide, please. Now, these are the concession stands and the rebranding. I can say a lot, but the before and after kind of speaks for itself. So we're very, very proud of what they've done in terms of the rebranding. And there's going to be 3 more of these slides. Next one, please. Again, a rebranding concession, and I think it should do a great deal of improvement for our sales at the Bay Center as well. Next slide. Before and after. That one really kind of jumps out at me. I don't know why, but that one jumps out. Next one, which is the last one, and that's the last of the slides. So we've done a lot. It's an exciting opportunity. It's an exciting time. But even equally as exciting is, I'm going to give you what we got going on for the next 60 days. We have a hockey game on February 12th. We have a hockey game on February 14th. We have the Toby Mac concert on February 18th. And then February 19th, 20th, and 21st, we have hockey games almost back to back. So we're really, really excited. And then going into March, our big thing that we've been working very, very hard on is the Sun Belt Basketball Championship Conference. Will go on from May 5th to May 8th, and we think that's going to give us a great opportunity to showcase what we've done over the past few months to upgrade our Bay Center. So we're really excited about that. And then March 13th, you have a hockey game. March 14th, a hockey game. And then March 21st, 21st, and 22nd, we have a pro bull riding. So I think we're going to get a good turnout for that. And then we have another hockey game on the 26th and the 27th of March. So we're excited about what's happening at the Bay Center, and we appreciate all the support that you all have given us, and we're going to continue to move the needle and move it forward. Thank you.
How much have we spent on rebranding?
I'm sorry?
How much have we spent on rebranding?
I'll let Amber entertain the numbers, please.
Good afternoon. All of the concession stand upgrades, including the point of sale system, it's just over $200,000. It's $214,000 and change, but $200,000 of that was funded directly from SMG through the management contract. So they're paying for it.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Amber, hold on. That was part of the contract that we just signed last year. I mean, that was part of we were looking, and we gave them a little bit more of a percentage of, I think, F&B, but we also pushed them to try to increase their sales, to provide better food. And so I was glad to see this. I know Jared got to see the new scoreboard. We did a demo after our last TPO meeting, and I was able to be there the night that it was shown on the board. The funny thing is they started it off with a picture of the old board, and so your heart sank for a minute because you're like, what do we really get out of here? But it really does change the experience, and I think the opportunity to host the Sun Belt Conference basketball championship was a major driver in a lot of these changes, especially with the locker rooms, I think, because we wanted the teams to be, I know I made the joke earlier about the visiting hockey teams, and we don't really care about them, but this was more so for the basketball, the kids, and having nice facilities. But I've also seen where they are promoting new food items. Hot Spots Barbecue has barbecue sandwiches in a stand that's at one of the ends. And so just trying to add that variety and make it to where people want to go there and enjoy a night and not feel like they have to eat before they go or something like that. So these were all things that Debbie Bowers worked on as part of the contract. And as we said, a lot of it was implementing that point of sale, know how many beers they sell, something like that. If anyone's interested, and
I'm interested.
Okay, but really, it was to improve the experience, and hopefully make better return for them and for us.
Yeah, I mean, this is a beautiful improvement. I mean, I think it's definitely going to improve the quality of the experience for our visitors, for our local community who goes to the events there. I think it's a great job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And in June, there will be a number of high school graduation ceremonies. I didn't want to go that far out, but I think it's going to be a great experience for those kids graduating high school this year. Again, thank you all.
Is there a number that SMG is told to spend or going to spend, or is there like a limit on what they're going to spend, or was that all of it?
So the amount that's adopted in the budget is the amount that they're given. Are you referring to what is funded?
Or just overall, if anybody knows what SMG is going to put into the Bay Center? I know as part of what the commissioner said with the contract to extend, was there a number they had to spend, or was it just specific things they had to do?
They had to actually write checks to the county for us to deposit into an account for us to pay the bills. So yes, there was an amount that was required under the amended management contract, and they did abide by that contract.
Is that met, or is there more stuff to do is what I'm asking, and are they paying for more stuff than what's already been done?
They have already written all of the checks they're obligated to. We are still working on fulfilling the commitments of the checks, which are including the concession stands.
Okay, but nothing else extra is going to be done besides what's here?
At this time, I don't believe so.
Okay.
I'm not aware of anything.
Okay.
Amber, did they also, sorry, Tish, but didn't they also contribute towards the scoreboard?
Yes, they did.
So that was part
They
of their-
contributed the majority of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you all. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wesley. Any other questions for Mr. Wesley or Amber? Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. Next up under new business is Visit Pensacola updates. Darren? Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I wanted to congratulate Commissioners Moore and Commissioners Jones on joining the TDC. I've had a chance to speak with both of you, and I am excited about the contributions they're going to bring to the council. I'd like to start off by just talking a little bit about the TDT collections. Michael gave you a great report talking about how those collections are up every month over last year. And while these are great numbers, I just want to make sure we're also understanding that, the environment that this happened in. Hurricane Sally hit September 15th, and the remediation, the emergency crews, the displaced residents, all of that created overnight stays and a lot of it in our inland lodging properties. So while we had properties down on Pensacola Beach and counter units down in Perdido Key in large amounts, reduced inventory, we were still able to accomplish these numbers. Now, as the remediation impact waned, leading into November is when our CARES Act campaign kicked in. That's the $500,000 CARES Act grant that we got through the county, and that basically started right after the elections when TV commercials became affordable again, and that ran all of November and December and helped bolster visitor travel during that time, and we'll be sharing the results in just a little bit. And now, as Michael noted, even receipts collected in December, received in January, those are up 9% over last year as well. I will say that this is a positive trend despite our challenges with our inventory. We have properties and rooms coming online every month, but we'll still have properties that won't maybe be open till May or July. Another property that we just don't know when it's going to come back online. That's the Grand downtown. When I say positive trends, we know that visitor traffic is going to be picking up. We see vaccinations rolling out. Those are positive indicators, but it's going to take some time before business travel, meetings, group events will be coming back. Even the first 6 months of this year, we're already seeing cancellations in our own mark and postponements. But I will say we just had the 3 mile, the double bridge run, just recently, last weekend. And as mentioned, the Sun Belt Basketball Conference is the first week of March. Pensacon moved its dates to May, but will continue. And Mardi Gras also moved its dates to May to continue. And I am very optimistic that the 3 mile bridge will open as scheduled by April 1st. Very optimistic.
I'm feeling your optimism.
Right. Want to comment briefly on a study that we did. We've been talking about it for a little bit. We did a presentation to the public that was available online on January 26th. We had 58 people attend the presentation online. And again, the goal of that study was to find an emotional connection that visitors have with our community. Because in marketing, you need to make a connection to make an impression, to get someone to take an action. And so we wanted to identify the feelings and the words that our visitors use when they talk about a Pensacola experience. So we did a total of 8 focus groups in 4 markets: Atlanta, Nashville, Dallas, and Houston. And through all of that, the key driver that was communicated over and over again is that our white sand beaches and our blue-green water is the primary reason that motivates them to come to Pensacola Beach, Perdido Key. Now, that is not something new to anybody. I think everybody understands that that's a key attribute of our destination. But it was important for us to revisit that and ask a lot of questions about the other things that you can do in a visit to our destination. And so we talked about history, culture, nightlife, and events. But it still all came down to the amazing beaches. And while we can't be all things to all people, this gives us a direction, and the study reinforces what our focus should be. And once we have someone interested in coming to our community, our job is then to use all of our other distribution channels, so the website, our visitor centers, our insider guide, our social media, our emails, to show all the different ways that you can enjoy Escambia County. So I think our plan now is to do a few more presentations of that study and answer questions that people have about how we're going to introduce those those feelings and words into our future marketing efforts. But I think we're going to be really talking to future visitors the right way going forward. Speaking of the Insider Guide, it's at the printers and it'll be getting shipped out next week. So we'll have updated brand new Insider Guides in market. And I just wanted to share a couple comments about the direction of our organization, what lies ahead for 2021. And really, it's all about repositioning Visit Pensacola, our organization, for growing our tourism economy post-COVID. And there's a number of ways we're going to do that. One way is we are able to take advantage of the Payroll Protection Program. So we received a check for $200,000 that allow us to bring back staff possessions. We've redesigned them for post-COVID, but it allows us to focus on sales and marketing, which is our primary role of our organization, and we'll start hiring those positions immediately. So we're excited to be able to do that now rather than waiting really 6 more months before we could really do that. I mentioned we're going to focus on our brand identity for our market, and the unique emotional positioning study is a big part of that. And, you know, we have the tagline that the beach is just the beginning, and that is still right on target because the beach is the beginning of a Pensacola, Perdido Key, Pensacola Beach visit. And we're fortunate. I mean, our history, Pensacola is a destination that has depth. We have a soul, and that really sets us apart from other beach destinations on the Panhandle. And we're going to be embracing that as well. One thing that's really important for us that we're calling it an advocacy plan, but it's a plan for how we're going to communicate what we do and how we do it to our residents, to the business community, to city and county government. You know, we do a number of different things, but I think with a plan in place, it'll be regular communications that everybody will have a better understanding of what we do as an organization. So when we talk about funding and other opportunities and what kind of role we can play as a partner with other organizations, everyone's better informed and or at least we can reinforce where they can find that information. And finally, we're going to be redesigning and reintroducing our programs that we had to cut last year. So a good example of that is our event grants program. And so that's really our priority, to evaluate and reintroduce that plan. That'll go into play this spring as far as applications for the period starting October 1st. But also reevaluating the visitor centers, how we use those, what their role is going forward. And we also, a good example of redesign is our website. So we've started that process of a redesign of their website to make sure we're taking advantage of the latest technology. The site's 4 or 5 years old, so it's time. And so we had a committee, and we'll have a recommendation to our board at the end of the month for a redesign of the website, which we're giving ourselves plenty of time to roll that out by the 1st or so of next year. And with that, I'm going to invite Dick Appleyard from Showcase to come up and talk about the marketing efforts. Unless someone has questions right now for me.
Does anyone have questions for Darren?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Darren, so you guys plan on rolling the grants out back in the spring? Is that where you're at with that? You're thinking the spring for the grants?
Yeah, we'll start taking applications this spring, and the grant period will be for the fall, October 1. We do granting twice a year.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are you, I think the earmark on that was, I think it was $10,000 previously. Is that still where you're at with this? I think that's what it was.
We had a few $100,000 in that program.
Is that, so that's
So
what's
that was our big grant program. We also had something called mini grants.
That's the one.
That's the one you're thinking of.
So,
Yeah.
okay, I just make sure. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Appleyard.
Thank you, President Baer. I'm Dick Appleyard. I represent a group of local advertising agents who are here. I think Ellis from EW Book and Leslie are with us, Duncan McCall, Southern Media also involved. I want to give you kind of a summary of what's been happening. I won't go into tremendous amount of detail, but here's the marketing update. Now, to begin with, I should say for those new members, this board played a significant role in getting CARES Act money for Visit Pensacola. It came at a perfect time when our budgets were dropping and our tourism tax collections were dropping, and so they allocated $500,000 at the end of the fiscal year, or end of the year, that we worked with Visit Pensacola on. Here's a summary. We chose TV to be the primary medium that we used, and we spent $500,000. A total of a little over 4,200 spots ran in 8 target markets. You can see where we spent the money: Atlanta, Birmingham, Dallas, Houston, Jackson, Nashville, New Orleans, and Tallahassee. That's pretty significant for us because in our ordinary budgetary process, we don't get to spend $100,000 in Atlanta, and we don't get to compete in Houston and Dallas at that level. So it's a significant investment for us, a great way for us to connect with people in the market. And as Darren said, we waited, as you all know, during the presidential election, the price of ads was outrageous. We started this the day after the election, and it worked quite well. So that's kind of a summary of the media that we used. Here's the impact that it had in those markets listed out compared with arrivals a year ago. So bottom line of it is Atlanta's up 15%, Birmingham was up 38%, New Orleans 39%, and the other highlight was Nashville. So we're really pleased with the CARES Act funding impact that we had. Again, thank you to you all for it. To remind you of what we were doing at the time, we were running coastal distancing ad. I think I showed it twice during board meetings here. And the whole theme, and right now it's running in Pensacola to try to get the local drive market to come and stay on the beach. But the bottom line is it's promoting safe travel to abide by all of the rules that came with the CARES Act. There were certain things we had to follow in order to do it. The production was excellent, and so we have extended the campaign to run in January and February, and we're running in many of the same markets, TV and digital. That's from November 10th, now extending to February the 28th. All right. The landing page traffic, there's a special landing page about coastal distancing, et cetera. You can see it up there, a copy of it. 38,180 users, a little over 39,000 sessions, a lot of sharing, pages per deal, and of course at the end of the day, the results is we had a pretty good increase from all the different cities that we were targeting. So we would say based on that, it works. The trackable bookings were room nights and flights. You can see them. The trackable revenue, $770,000. Keep in mind when you look at these numbers, you might say, well, why wouldn't it millions? The only way we can track people is if they come to our website or click on some of our ads. Remember, the campaign we ran for CARES was all TV, not trackable in this way. So the numbers are much higher, but through only a few of the digital partners that we have are we able to track, and they're the obvious ones you'd think about, Expedia and Travelocity and whatever. We can track those, and that's how we know the numbers that we're sharing with you. We're just started Monday, a new campaign for remote learners. It's not a very expensive campaign, runs from February 1 to April the 30th. Bottom line of it is we're trying to turn Pensacola into a great place. If you're teaching your own child and you want to do a trip and learn, we have great facilities. We have great educational opportunities here, and we are targeting those people who are homeschooling or are teaching their children at home. That's kind of a new thing that several of our partners are working on. Coming up beginning middle of this month, we'll begin to do some value advertising. This is the time of year people look for deals, and not everybody's going to offer a deal. If I only had one, there's only 2 hotels at the beach open, I probably wouldn't give you a value, but the in-town and other people are providing some buy 2 nights, get 1 free, buy 3, get 1. And a lot of our partners are part of this as we're putting this all together. And what happens is all the stakeholders in Visit Pensacola get a notification and a request and whatever, and those that respond are part of the landing page that's under value. So that's what's coming up here. The other thing you've heard a lot about that was a part of this group's decision was the Sun Belt Conference Championship. Our leader on that is Leslie Brown. She will go through the details of it for you.
Yes. So Visit Pensacola is playing quite a big role in helping to promote the Sun Belt Conference. And we have a campaign it started on January 11th, and it's running through the Sun Belt Conference, which is, of course, March 5th through 8th. Most of what is going on right now is out of market because we want to plant that seed for people to make their plans to come and follow their team here. And then starting about the 15th of this month, you're going to start seeing things in market. So we're working with a budget of $120,000. There are, just in case you don't know all the details, there are 12 conference schools. The men's teams and the women's teams are all coming to compete. So we're going to have a lot of room nights just for that fact alone, plus their families and their fans. So we're very excited about that. So we are marketing to 8 of the key markets from the schools that we think are the most likely to travel here and follow their teams. And those are the University of South Alabama in Mobile, Troy University, of course from Troy, University of Arkansas at Little Rock, Arkansas State, Jonesboro, Georgia State in Atlanta, Georgia Southern in Statesboro, University of Louisiana in Lafayette, and University of Louisiana Monroe. So we've got digital advertising, social advertising, television, radio, print, and outdoor, all of these things working together to help create excitement for this event and to bring people to the conference. So we think it's very exciting, a lot of support going into it, so I hope you all get your tickets. They're on sale now, and you can find out all about it at visitpensacola.com/sunbelt.
And I don't know if he's on the agenda, but, none of this would have happened without Ray Palmer and Pensacola Sports being the driver to make this happen. They were the connection with Sunbelt and worked with the county commission, and we're just the marketing arm of it and thrilled to be so. So with that, that's a little bit of a taste of what we've been doing for the last 2 months.
Thank you, Dickie. Does anybody have any questions for Visit Pensacola?
Mr. Chairman.
Ronnie?
Dickie, where is that digital classroom at? Is it on Darren? Is it on Visit Pensacola's website? The classroom, the digital classroom?
Oh, he was a Zoom meeting. You're talking about where he had the meeting to share the information about the research? Maybe I'm reading the question.
The remote learners?
The remote learners.
Oh, remote learners.
Remote learners.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's an advertising campaign
Okay.
encouraging families and families that this is a great place to come and have with your students and live in a hotel room and have a good time here, but go to the mess hall and go to the various and sundry projects that are targeted at children. I'm sorry I didn't understand your question.
Yeah, and I need to get a little bit better, because I'd like to see it, of course. I'd like to, and I'm sure it's somewhere where we can take a peek at it, and we may want to share it with partners and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So there is a landing page that will all direct to on the website, and we have
Just to make sure
virtual
it's-
classrooms right now available
But it's
on the
on
website.
visits, right? That's what I'm asking.
Visit, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's on visits. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Darren, you mentioned the research groups and things like that, and I appreciate, I had the opportunity to go to the one in Atlanta to listen to, and Darren's not exaggerating when all they talk about are our beaches. I was actually surprised at how little everything else that we hold near and dear to our hearts that we think people would love to come see, it's about the beach. I mean, the number of people that didn't even know about the Blue Angels, again, who in Pensacola doesn't know about the Blue Angels, but it wasn't a driving force or a decision maker for someone looking for our area. Even our history, I think what our beach has to offer, the coastal distancing, things like that we're marketing right now, to hear them talk about even us running a campaign for people to come down here they didn't like because people would be onto their secret of where to go to get away from the crowds and enjoy a nice beach. So I just wanted to say, that it was, Darren wasn't exaggerating when at least for that day, for those two groups that we heard from, it was all about the beach.
So a good example of that is people are saying, listen, I can get culture at home in Houston. In Atlanta, we can get nightlife or music in Nashville. But what we can't get, what we don't have in our own community, is those beautiful white sand beaches and that blue-green water and the sound of the waves. We don't have that, and it's amazing when we come here to experience it. So my own personal experience, when I, let's say, go to Napa Valley, I'm sure they have some great culture and some amazing history, but I am there to drink wine and get my 3 wineries in a day type of experience. Now, we end up doing other things. We go out, eat, we do other things we weren't planning to do, and that's our goal, is getting people to do other things. Because the one thing about the beach, and I imagine it's about drinking wine too, you can only do so much of that, but 3 to 4 hours is how much time the average person spends on the beach before they're ready to do something else, and that is a great opportunity for them, for us to get them to explore the other parts of the county.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yes. Just one moment. So Darren, I wanted to ask a couple of questions also, but just to make a comment about the comment you just made about that it is the beach is the hook when you come here. So Florida has a whole coastline all the way around it of beach. And so the important part that I think that what the unified budget is doing is collaborating on the marketing efforts to diversify those tourists, the base of tourists. So maybe the beach is the hook, but what differentiates our beach from the rest of the state of Florida? And it is the rich culture and history and the sporting events, et cetera. So I just want to note that. But and so thank you for continually working with those groups.
I totally agree, and when we talk about our destination that has depth and a soul, I'm not saying the other beach destinations are soulless, but I am saying that we have so much more to our destination than your average beach town.
Right. And so one other comment I wanted to make was, or a question rather, you guys talked about the remote learning marketing campaign. Is there an effort to do remote workers, a campaign to target those folks who can work from home from their computer that we've all learned is very capable with the technology these days? I also sit on the Florida West Board, and that is part of their priority is to attract those folks. So the collaboration among the tourism industry and the economic development agencies industry would be, I think, key in trying to really maybe the two working together to craft the language for the marketing efforts would be really key.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that we're doing now, and just started, everyone's feel comfortable getting together. I am meeting with Scott Luth from Economic Development, as well as Todd Thompson from the Pensacola Chamber of Commerce, talking about how we're able to work together and support each other. And most recently there was a CivicCon presentation that talked about identifying that one thing that you can claim as your own, and that the idea of cybersecurity was something that was brought up, and I know that's something that economic development is working on, and I think there's some real opportunities there to embrace something like that and work together. So I actually sent Scott an email this morning saying, we got to sit down, I wanted you to get me up to date where you're at with those efforts, but he had just shared a great article about how these communities that are filled up with snow, that they could be working remotely in Pensacola. So we just had a great article to that point.
Great, thank you.
So, we just started remote learning, and yes is the answer to your question about remote workers, and we're also working on the details of a campaign for people my age and others up that have had immunization, and to have, this is whatever, I'm not sure the exact wording of how you say that, but to target that group of people who have been able to get, that this is a great place to come and relax and recover and get away. So that's another piece we're trying to hit on, David, including the workers and I'm not retired, but the people who've gotten shots. Yeah.
That old?
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Vision?
Yeah, so it was Andrew Davis was our speaker, and Darren and I were able to meet right after we heard him talk on Friday. And so it was interesting to see how you go after these niche markets and that expands. The article that Scott Lou sent earlier was in, I think, in Security Magazine. That says Cyber Pros, Pensacola, Florida wants you. And I'm sorry I was pulling it up as you were speaking, but I believe that that Florida West is coming in behind or working in conjunction with Visit Pensacola, that when Visit starts running an ad, they start targeting that same market, so that they may all of a sudden get double 2 doses of our advertising, and hoping that it goes a little bit further. I think some of the hotels, I don't know if they were still doing it, were offering some specials for people to come down and try, as we're seeing places around the country do, as we try to recruit businesses, recruit individuals, come down and try us for a little bit. And so that's something that I know Scott's been working on.
Any other?
Pensacola Sports?
Well, they're next on the agenda. No other questions for Visit Pensacola? The other updates from Pensacola Sports, ACE Naval Museum, and UWF Historic Trust. I see Ray out there. Mr. Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know about y'all, but if hearing this stuff doesn't excite you, it sure excites me. Sounds like really cool stuff they're doing. I don't know. Just telling you what I'm thinking. I got one thought on remote learners. I don't know about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fouls, and you get to sit down in a basketball game. 1 shot, foul shot, 2 shot, 3-pointer. How many points does that add up? Dickie, y'all paying attention? Let's do a little remote learning and SB Sunbelt Conference marketing in that as well. You've heard a lot about Sunbelt Conference. Obviously, that's kind of top of the food chain. We did have the Double Bridge Run this past weekend. Don't know hotel rooms yet, but we had 684 outside participants outside a 1-hour drive. We don't know what that converts yet to hotel rooms, but considering all that we faced, we feel very comfortable with just over 2,000, whereas traditionally we have 4,800 participants, and we're under half that number started. But to have a third of those numbers actually be people from out of town is pretty strong. Obviously, again, there's lots of hotel rooms. Leslie mentioned Sunbelt Conference. I don't want to keep going back to that. Obviously, I love the fact that everybody ahead of me is talking about sports and the impact of sports tourism. So y'all get it. You're hearing it. But we do have all 24 teams have already booked their rooms. And just running those numbers, we're well over 2,000 room nights. That's with the attrition that they will have as they lose and go home. That does not count a single fan at all. So that's a good number. March 18th through the 24th, we have our junior college tennis event. We have 6 schools, 6 men's teams, 5 women's teams, so 11 teams coming that will play a weekend of junior college tennis. They bring 15 to 20 players per play up at Roger Scott. Phenomenal tennis. Encourage you to go out and support that event, support these. It's an event we created several years ago. They left us last year, realized that they were better here in Pensacola, and they called and said, sorry about that, can we come back? We do have the junior college soccer that was a spin-off of that. That'll be here Labor Day. We'll talk about that later. Speaking of the draw of the beaches, and again, I'm telling you about things that may or may not happen, but we got a call last week. The Florida Sports Foundation has international beach games, and they called us last week and said, can you pull off an international beach games between now and June? So the answer is maybe. A lot of lift. We actually have our DeLuna Games swim and our firefighter event April 24th and 25th on Pensacola Beach. So we will be meeting with the foundation on Friday to see if it's reasonable to add at least some of their competitions to our existing games and create an annual event. Leslie, I hope you're listening, because you're going to get an earful of this tomorrow, and then you'll be on the call Friday, I hope. So anyway, And then May 17th to 23rd is our Futures tennis event. Some of the players that, for the players that have played in our Futures in previous years are playing in the Australian Open today or yesterday or tomorrow, depending on how well they do. But that's the level of tennis players that come. We have 4 players right now that have played here that are in the top 25 in the world. But again, encourage you to come. That's free at Roger Scott Tennis. Phenomenal tennis, international players as well as the Americans. So that's kind of a quick briefing on Pensacola sports. Everybody, I hope, got their quarterly report. If you did not get a quarterly report in the last 2 weeks, please let me know. We will make sure you do get a copy, but it was all sent out to all of you. I'm not sure that, Jared, you got it, but I hope you did. If you didn't, please let me know. We'll make sure we provide you a quarterly report of some of the happenings at Pensacola sports. With that, I am done unless somebody has a specific question for me.
Thank you, Ray. Any questions?
I don't have a question. I just want to make a comment. Thanks for all the hard work that you guys did, Visit and everybody, to bring the Sun Belt here. It's the Civic Center, or the Bay Center, is renovated. They were a big part. I looked at my notes back. They put in $200,000 for concession, but they also gave $600,000 for the video board. So that has been a huge improvement. And you guys just did a great job bringing them here. And do we have a multiple-year contract?
We do. We have a five-year contract with the option for 2 additional years. And you are right. The building is not the same.
Right.
And the Sun Belt actually has not only brought in, thank you, Shirley, for that. Sun Belt has not only brought in $250,000, they have also made a financial commitment. What that commitment exactly is and what the need is will also be, they're going to do some upgrades at Pensacola State College for that commitment for them for 5 years. So they're meeting with the administration up there and the athletic department to say, what can we do to help your basketball team and enhance our experience over the next 5 years? So they have a full-born commitment into our community. We're still planning on multiple options and events, opportunities. We're going to have a double trolley tour system during Fan Fest. During the event, they'll be running one east out towards the DeVillers area, down to Joe Patty's, down to the stadium, down to Luna, down to McGuire's, down that area. So we're going to have double loop trolleys going on Saturday and Sunday all day, or most of the days, and stopping off at various bars that will be themed with support of the different teams. It's going to be a lot of fun. COVID's going to be a real challenge. So next year is going to be even way more fun.
Knock on wood.
I would like to say, if Visit Pensacola could put some of those events that Ray's talking about on the calendar that you guys sent out weekly, or...
They are there. They are a great partner. They are in every meeting.
I get the emails weekly, but I've never seen like the tennis tournament you're talking about.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
probably on us to make sure it gets to them.
Okay, yeah, it would be just helpful. So if there's somebody in town and we can say, they're like, what's there to do? And we're not just always saying hockey,
Sure,
or baseball.
absolutely.
You know, they may want to do something else. So.
And I'm a little embarrassed to say that Steve and I never did as good a job. Darren has done a phenomenal job. We meet with their staff every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. We don't even know it's that new. Every 2 weeks, which now turned into about a 3-hour meeting, just making sure that we're on the same page. But great.
Sounds good.
Hey, Chair, Ray, I think Dickey says don't give up your day job of running the sports association based on those marketing suggestions. I think you two are in the right professions, is based on his facial expression.
All right, and I apologize. We have a speaker on the last subject of Visit Pensacola.
Thank you, Chairman Bear. Melissa Pino, 413 Southeast Bowlets. I agree with Ray. I just about jumped up when I heard about that remote education, the learning opportunity. We haven't had too many silver linings with COVID, but just as I learned when I was really debilitated from Lyme disease when I was teaching in college and ran up against some semesters that I simply was too incapacitated to get out of the house, I could still teach, and I got hooked up with remote learning at that time, and it's a really treasured thing for me. I would just love to see a dedicated person either on the TD, and I'm sure a lot of people were either on the TDC or from one of these great agencies that is the liaison to make sure that this is getting pumped out to everybody. I mean, Patty Hightower should know about this. You know, Dr. Edler, Mr. Fetzko, Mr. Slayton, the Parent Teacher Association. Everybody should know about this. And then the wonderful thing, because how many times are you online that you see people say, what are we going to do with these kids? And if it gets out there and it gets viral that there's a landing page that is really easily workable for mobile, you're out, the kids are going stir crazy, oh, here's a great learning opportunity. And the beautiful thing about that is because it had to be established during COVID, it's going to be there after, and it could really have a synergy between education and tourism in a really phenomenal way. So I would just love that even if there needs to be more money, I know more money right now is a really hard thing, but any and all ways that remote learning can be pushed out to every stakeholder in this community, I think it's a wonderful initiative. Let's get that out there to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. So we don't have anyone here from ACE, but Nicole Stacy is the curator of Fufu Fest, and so I've asked Nicole to please say a few words.
Nothing like being put on the spot by David. Hello, everyone. Last Friday, ACE announced at our press conference that we are looking forward to the 2021 season. So Fufu Festival is scheduled for November 4th through the 15th. All COVID-friendly precautions in the winds. And the portal opened up on Friday, so all nonprofits are allowed to go and check that out and start putting their applications together for some really cool events that promote arts, culture, and tourism. And those will be due by April 30th at noon.
Thank you.
Moving right on. And I did want to just share about the virtual experience if I could. We do have a virtual Pensacola landing page, so I invite you to check that out. And there are quite a few different resources on that page with virtual events for people, even during these times as things start to open up. There's still things out there that you can enjoy virtually. So,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Any questions about Fufu Fest? Thank you. All right. And from the Naval Aviation Museum, Ms. Bovin. Thank you for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for all that you've done for us this year already. I can't report some of the fantastic things that everybody here has said, but I will say it gives us energy and it encourages us. As you know, base access has been an incredible issue for us this last year. The museum first experienced the terrorist attack last December. We lost access because of that for a while, and then COVID hit. So the museum total was closed for 180 days. It is now back open to DoD ID holders and their family members. They have to be escorted on, but that's a possibility if they do want to come to the museum. But it has been an incredibly challenging time for the foundation and also for the museum. I'm sure Sterling has spoke with everyone about the challenges of the museum, and I think a few of you are also getting to know Admiral Kozad, who is now the president of our foundation, and we're very lucky to have him. But just thank you so much for your continued support, and if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
License plates are rolling out, aren't they?
They are rolling out. That is one thing that was in the works all through even late 2019 and 2020, and we did get our 3,000 signatures to get those into production. So Mallory Cates, our marketing director, is now working with 3M through that last process, getting colors just right and that sort of thing. Scott Lunsford's office was integral to us getting that out and getting it advertised, and now it's being you can purchase it at any driver's license office in the state of Florida now. So
Mr. Reeves?
I would like, The last legislative session appropriated about $37,000 for educational. Did that money get utilized from the state of Florida?
Yes, well, it's being utilized. Those funding specifically is going to upgrade some of the things in the National Flight Academy, and also we are exploring some virtual options. I know virtual is kind of on everybody's mind these days. So the face of virtual has changed so drastically since the inception of the National Flight Academy. So we're taking the opportunity, allocating some of those funds to explore what we can do now, and kind of using COVID as a jumping off point to launch us forward into the future as far as virtual goes. But yes, sir, it is being utilized.
And does anybody have access to the Flight Academy?
Currently, no, we have not had programming since March of last year. It is still.
And do you know what the original $100,000 from this particular committee was for?
Yes. So it has been used to offset our meals for our students before who come in the summer to our programming. As far as what it went to exactly last summer, I'll have to get back with you on that.
So what it was originally for really isn't available right now.
Right. Yep.
Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else?
So what type of visitor experience, I'm not experience, but what volume are you receiving with the DoD badge and family?
Right now, between prior in 2019, we were at about 724,000. All of last year, we had total of 50,000, and that's from whenever we were able to reopen in March of January through March, and then when we were able to reopen at the end of December. So I'm not sure exactly how that falls out on our visitation. So we have had some, but it's been a drastic downturn. And we're not even open all days of the week right now, just because we don't have that much traffic.
Any other comments or questions? No. Well, thank you for what you guys do in the community, and obviously what happened in December of 19 was tragic to our community, but obviously it's been devastating to your organization. And we hope, because you guys are a good community partner and drive a lot of traffic here, visitors, we hope that you guys can sustain this and
thank you so much.
Continue.
One of the things when we're talking about the impact, and especially the impact this board has on us and your funding, is the foundation itself went from 156 employees to around 35 within a period of 3 months. And that affected a lot of local livelihoods, a lot of people who had been with the museum and the foundation for many, many years. And so that was a very hard pill to swallow, but having the support of our local agencies and our government, it really makes a difference on the front of us being able to sustain ourselves and prepare for when we can be able to reopen. So thank you so much.
thank you. And I understand Rob was stuck in a meeting, so no one was here to report for UWF. So moving on to other business. On the agenda, I asked to revisit our previous conversation about the TDT audit and to give an update. I've passed out a packet to everyone. I don't know if everyone got one because I have a couple extra copies.
I need it.
You need it?
Yeah.
Does everybody else have a copy of numbers? Okay. So as everyone recalls from our last meeting, we took action as a board unanimously to authorize, if you will, an audit of the TDT program. In that discussion, we talked about why the need for the audit, and we discussed the 3% administration fee. We talked about some of the specific items that were under the county's budget and the purchases that they were making. And we talked about Visit Pensacola and other authorized uses of the TDT. And so we mentioned, this is obviously for the new members who haven't been on this board before, weren't at the last meeting, but we also discussed what we would like to see from the audit is to review all the expenditures to make sure that they were authorized uses under the statute, but also to compare, sort of get us a benchmark of where we are on our spending and try to compare us to neighboring communities, counties, and other counties around the state with TDT collections around our size. And so at the meeting, as we were discussing it, we had first mentioned the county doing it, and County Administrator Gilly said that because the RFP process would drag it out so long, that it might be better to go through the clerk's office. Unfortunately, the clerk wasn't here to tell us her opinion of that, but we took that action to go through the clerk's office because they had a contract with an agency, an auditing firm, and that we would try to go through that. So fast forward a few days, it went to the county commission. At their meeting, they were discussing the tourist development tax collection, and Madam Clerk brought up the topic at the meeting about the audit to discuss it, and one of the commissioners asked who was going to pay for it, and et cetera, and it went on, the conversation, and the clerk, Ms. Childers, said that we have no authority in the statute to authorize the audit, and she is correct. There is nothing in the statute that authorizes.
Now, how was she correct?
She is correct because the statute does not authorize us, give us the authority to make.
Get a different lawyer.
Well, the statute does not mention anything about us having, the TDC having the power to authorize that and those expenditures.
Get a different lawyer.
Well, I hear you, Mr. Reeves. I'm going to continue. What it does say, it says that we shall, the TDC shall prepare and submit to the governing board for the county, for its approval, a plan for tourist development. That was done when the referendum was originally passed, and that plan is in place in the county ordinance. The law also says that the council shall meet at least once each quarter, and from time to time shall make recommendations to the county governing board for the effective operation of the special projects or for uses of the tourist development tax revenue, and perform such other duties as may be prescribed by county ordinance or resolution. The council shall continuously review expenditures of revenue from the Tourist Development Trust Fund and shall receive at least quarterly expenditure reports from the county governing board or its designee. Expenditures which the council believes to be unauthorized shall be reported to the county governing board, and the Department of Revenue. And so what we can do as a board is recommend to the county commission to authorize an audit if we want to do that. The county has the authority to make that decision. We do not have the authority to make that decision, as I've read. So one of the things that, as we discussed, was the 3% collected of the TDC. That the statute authorizes, it states, a portion of the tax collected may be retained by the county for cost of administration, but such portion shall not exceed 3% of collections. The way the process happens in Escambia County is the county approves at the beginning of the year the budget for the clerk's office. And as the TDT is being collected, the clerk remits that 3% and reimburses essentially the general fund from that TDT.
That's not true.
Okay, so,
Do you want me to?
sure, thank you. I went back and listened to the
Everything he's reading
hearing.
you is what I understand to be true too, so we'll just stipulate to that. How this process works is the statute says May 3%. So when I came on with the clerk, I sat down with OMB and we talked about and delineated expenses for the clerk and also expenses for the county, because there's administrative expenses and there's indirect expenses. At the time, it was Amy Lavoie. She said, well, it's well past 3%. I think she calculated somewhere between 5 and 6. The process they adopted was this. You delineate your budget, Pam, and I do. I have it broken down by treasury, by financial, I break it down. I submit a budget to the county. Amber will testify for you. Testify, it's not court. Get a different lawyer. Amber will show you that in the budget, what they do is they do a line item of 3% of budgeted revenues because that's how it says it in the ordinance in the statute. Statute says actual. So when they are preparing the budget, they do the 3%. That 3% goes to the county every quarter of the budgeted revenues, 3% of budgeted revenues. In this situation, there was such a decline after the budget and it wasn't adjusted that Amber's taken to the county commission adjustment and my office will adjust that quarterly. Now, what I do is at the end of an audit period, because Mike told you, many of those revenues come in after the fact and apply to the prior year. So when we close the audit, we true up that 3% so it does not exceed actual revenues. Does that help you?
Yes.
In the flow? Great.
Thank you. So that is the flow of how it happens. So last year, obviously, nobody knew there was going to be a pandemic, and so the collection, as Ms. Childers just said, were not what we had budgeted. And so there was the overage, and Amber is now, it's like $22,231, I think, was the overage. And that has been adjusted or will be adjusted at the next meeting or something. And then, so the other conversation we had was for the 2021 budget, there was 3.3% actually budgeted, and the clerk has stated that that will be corrected as well to be within the statutory limit of no more than 3%. However, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you have said that you guys are entitled to 3%. There have been years where the 3% would have exceeded what you were budgeted, and y'all chose not to reach back and take more.
Entitled is a word that can be really hard, but we pretty much have proven cost of what it costs to run TDT revenues and all the revenues of the county, and the county has a pretty good idea of how much more it costs them. They're at these meetings.
Yes.
I mean, that's the indirect component. So really, they could go up to 5%, 6%. I think de minimis is 10%, but they don't do that. They really try to hold at the 3%, knowing we have probably expenses collectively that extend past 3%, right. But they're holding the line at that 3%. Does that help?
Sure. Thank you. So I did a little research and I read some of the different Florida Auditor General's report, and there was one for Walton County from 2017, right. and it was related to, yes, it was very good. It was related to, Walton County had received some money from not the oil spill, but whatever the rig was called. Related to the oil spill. And a portion of that money was allocated to their Tourist Development Council. And in that report, they did note, they made the recommendation that the clerk of the county court should develop and document a cost allocation methodology to support the cost for administering the TDT program, TDT, and withhold from the TDC only those amounts related to the actual administrative costs. And I don't believe there's any, that you guys have that cost analysis?
Yes, yes and no. When I first came on here, Amy Lavoie and I sat down and talked about the cost of the TDT because there was so much about this I did not understand, but then started delineating my budget so I could see. She did her own costing as to what they do, and she says, Pam, this is what we're going to do. You're only going to get this for your budget, what you can prove you need for the budget, because I've got all the additional cost. And this is how the flow is going to be. The flow didn't matter. It worked. And you're going to find the cost is probably above 5% when you take the administrative cost and the indirect together. And the county has just signed on with Maximus, Amber. In process, okay, strike that. In process of an RFP to do a cost allocation plan. And that will further, it may not go to that detail that you might be looking for, but I think it will help you because the other plan is old. But yes, we can all cost this out. Do we sit down and do it all the time? No, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to cost it out, but we can get past 3% real fast. But yes, Walton is a very good case.
Well, in that case, it said, they suggested that they have this program, that it's necessary because the actual cost of administering the program, whether it's over or under the 3%, that the clerk should not be taking more than what the actual cost is to do it. And they said that they must have absent support for the amount being assessed. The clerk of the court may be retaining TDT collections for administrative costs in excess of the actual costs. And so without any type of report or anything that shows, and what they had said was they expected the clerk in Walton County to have this program based on actual costs, utilize that for 3 years to calculate what that actual cost was going to be. That may not exceed the 3%. It doesn't have to be 3%. It could be 2% or 1%, whatever that actual cost is.
And that's exactly what the county is doing by hiring Maximus, is to do that cost allocation plan, to look back at expenses, to see if our guesstimates, we didn't calculate right down to the penny, or even to the dollar, or even maybe to the $10,000 mark. But this is exactly what's going on with the county. So that will be a plan that will be available to you.
Is this what you were talking about in your email, Amber, that won't be
Yes.
done until 2022 at the earliest?
It's a long process. It's a lot of dig.
Well,
The last plan was 567 pages.
And it's a lot of interviews, a lot of calculation, and I will be involved, she will be involved. And certainly, Chair Bear, by all means, Chair Bear, hello. By all means, recommend to the county, this is a really good recommendation to have these allocation plans. It is stellar. This is what we are based on, is accountability for 3%, 5%, any type of allocation. So that is a good thing. And Walton, that kind of, like Okaloosa, if you read the Okaloosa report, that's a really good one too. But there's reasons they came in and said this, is because there was abuse. There was a lot more. And when there was a windfall, they were seeing the clerk or that county take it, and they didn't think that was right. That was absolutely a good report to refer to. Yes, sir.
Well, so the concern that at least that I have for this issue is that we're obligated to review all expenditures and report our recommendations to the BOCC, and if we find that there's unauthorized uses, we're mandated to report that to the BOCC and also the Department of Revenue.
And if you feel that I have unauthorized uses or it exceeds, you need to communicate with the county commission.
Well,
I think that's a very good thing you should do, or turn it into DOR on various what you think might be unauthorized expenses. Go to the Auditor General. That's what I do. I pull Auditor General opinions, especially like for the Marine and the Reef. Absolutely, we were all over the Auditor General opinions. And in fact, I've got them in my file if you need copies of them to help you with your research. But yes, you're on the right track.
Mr. Reeves?
I really don't care whether it's 3% or 2.75%. What bothers me is why would you obstruct this board's decision to have an audit of this? Is there, do you have some concern?
No, sir. Your words are obstruct. I read the statute to the county commission, and the county commission made a decision. Chair Bear read it to you also. By all means, have an audit. It does not bother me. I will facilitate, I will help. But if the county commission votes not to have an audit because they've seen the expenses, they know what they're doing. I've given them auditor general opinions. They've heard from their attorney. If they vote not to do an audit, I have no authority either. You have no authority for that audit. If Mr. Bender and the commission say, we don't need an audit right now, but they did say, Chair Bear would get with the clerk and we would find the scope of what you would like to work on. Because there's some possibilities. You talked about comparatives. Okay, that's not an audit, so we got to use the words right. Comparatives is one thing, audit is another. I will not obstruct, sir, and I did not obstruct.
Well, this board voted to have an audit, and then the next thing that happened, as far as I'm concerned, is you did obstruct that.
With all due respect, you have no power to ask for an audit. You are able to provide recommendations.
But that's your opinion.
It's written in the statute. I only read the statute. But this board can turn it over to the Auditor General, and the Auditor General can come in and audit. You can turn it over to DOR. You can turn it to the County Commission. That is absolutely what this board should do. I will not obstruct, sir.
All I can say, Mr. Chairman, is we voted, we agreed. You know, it just upsets me that we just take it right in the face. You know, do we want an audit or don't we want an audit? And just because the clerk says it ain't in the statute, you know, she ain't a lawyer, and we could hire a better lawyer than she's got.
I'm okay with an audit. I will help you with an audit. I will not obstruct it, but I can't let you move forward without the county.
That's all I got to say about it. Is it just hurts me that this board voted unanimously to do an audit at your suggestion. And
I'm still interested in an audit, if that's your question. I believe that we're entitled to it. I believe that we have taken action as a board. We made the recommendation to the county. If the county chooses, and actually they said they would revisit it, they haven't denied it. And so we do have the authority to request an audit.
Yes, absolutely. Can you tell me what kind of audit you're looking for?
Well, so
I would have liked a meeting like we said we were going to prior to this meeting.
Understand.
But that was supposed to help us figure out what is comparatives that I think you're interested in, and what is in the audit, because the county is already audited. There are so many components that are already audited with a financial audit that is being published and on the next county commission meeting. It's big, but TDC is in there for your review. So we really need to talk about scope, and I think if you and I talk about scope and what you want to manage it and present that to the commission for a specific scope that will help drive cost or help us calculate cost, I think would be probably more promising in getting a favorable result. My opinion only.
Pam,
Sir.
think about the people that oppose the 5th cent. And they are convinced that we're not spending the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th cent properly. So in my mind's eye, and I don't care whether, I'm happy to pay the 5th cents personally, although they don't do any advertising for RV parks.
Again, if Chair Bear would take time to meet with me, I believe we could come up with a scope. Instead of it being this wide, because it really did this. And they're like, how much is that going to cost? And I'm like, for all that, probably 50,000 and up. I mean, it was everything. But if you find a scope, we want to focus on the admin fee. Let's just throw it out there. We want to focus on the admin fee. We want to look at all of these different kind of expenditures that the county spends. but your focus is the big bulk of things. You're done, you're leaving me, are you going to find your lawyer?
He's his own lawyer. He's gotta go into
I thought you would want to listen to me.
He can hear you in the back.
The people that are going to pay the fifth feel right about the first portion.
Then let's focus on that and let me help you. Chair Bear, will you please set a meeting with me?
Yes, I
So
will.
we can talk.
I will call you after this
And,
meeting.
and we'll throw it all in there, whatever you're skeptical of or feel is, if it is the wreath, and I say that because Marine Hack keeps coming up, and I did bring the Auditor General opinions for you, I'll help you in any way I can.
Thank you. So what I was going to suggest is, because what I think we're looking for is an audit of the program to make sure that the expenditures are meeting the statute, the authorized uses. So there's a financial audit that the county does, the clerk does for the county every year, and in aggregate, it has the TDT program audited. Yes, so.
Get some validations, get an opinion that validates that what he's doing for clerk, visit Pensacola, Basin, all of it.
All of it.
Click, 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 we are good stewards of the money. Is that
Right.
what I say?
Yes.
Let me help you get it.
Okay, well, and I think we can ask for an Attorney General or Auditor General opinion on this, see if the Auditor General of the state go through their Joint Legislative Delegation Committee to request that they do an audit of the program. Because I'm not only concerned, and we have all discussed, the 3% administrative fee and making sure that it is actually being collected or used, spent on actual cost to administer the program.
And that would be great if they would come in and pay for it.
Yes, well,
To make that happen, make that happen.
great, thank you. We've also discussed issues related to whether or not the county is spending the money, the administrator is spending it based on authorized uses. And I will tell you, the statute says, and I'm paraphrasing, but where a statute enumerates the things upon which it is to operate or forbids certain things, it is ordinarily to be construed as excluding from its operation all things not expressly mentioned. And so in there, it doesn't talk about whether or not landscape maintenance may be spent, tourist development tax may be spent on landscape maintenance, or purchasing ATVs for turtle nest monitoring, or temp staff for turtle nest monitoring. I've listed a long list of them. Purchasing a truck for Marine Resource Department, paying the full salary of the Marine Resource Department director if it's not 100% his job in developing tourism. Most of the Marine Resource Department expenses, travel per diem, Grand Lagoon Marina, George's Marine Electronics, West Marine, Walmart, Amazon, Renaissance Man, et cetera. I'm sorry? Well, I hadn't finished. Forestry supplies, Home Depot, Lowe's, Hatchmont, McDonald, et cetera. Cheesecakes, which was an error. So those things are not authorized in the statute. Those are not expenditures that are authorized. And there's a list of Attorney General opinions as well.
And can I provide this to you too?
Which one is that?
This is the Attorney General's opinion that you may want to know also.
Which one?
It's the one for the wreaths that talks about may acquire, construct, extend, enlarge, remodel, repair, improve, maintain, operate, or promote. And
What was the word after that? Promote
well,
what?
it's on and on and on.
Which
Just-
number, which AGO number
This
is that?
has to do with the use of, for fishing and artificial reefs and maintaining them. This is the one we polled and talked to that office about before the county started spending, but I want to make sure you have this, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I,
Yes, sir.
do you mind? I just want to, before we get too far down, I want to talk about some of the other things she talked about. So Pam, when there's a reimbursement, I mean, you check the uses before it's paid, right? I mean, that's where you feel confident that we've been following the statutes.
I do, and if something is just odd, I'll call other counties. Let's say it's just, now, if it's $1,000, you know, if it's just kind of sort of, if I have a gut feeling, forget it, guys, find it someplace else. But then when they start really ramping up the expenditures, I get on the phone with the AG. We follow through.
And with that being said, you know, as a board, when the cost to do the audit came back at maybe $50,000, well, who's going to pay for that? Is that coming out of TDT? Is that supposed to come out of general fund?
With respect, all due respect, there was no proposal ever made, so we don't know what that was going to cost.
Well, again,
that
I
was
think
just a
that's-
speculative guess.
That was a speculative guess, and I think that was trying to define the scope. I think part of maybe what Mr. Reeves is talking about was we wanted to make sure that there hadn't been unauthorized uses of it, and the clerk quickly pulled together a report, which I've just handed out. She emailed it to us back in December, and I think I made the statement that, hey, I don't think we've made any expenses on things that haven't come in front of this board, at least since I've been a member and since I've been on the board. And I believe that the desk audit that she did demonstrated that the things that have been shown as expenditures over the last 3 years were all things that were in the budget or came back in front of this board, like the Bob Sykes Bridge, for instance, or the mowing. Those still came in front of this board before they were expended. And so that was, for me, I think that answered some of the questions that the boards were having. Now, if it's an authorized use, then I don't know if that necessarily needs an audit, but I think we can clearly reach out to the Inspector General or wherever and DOR and ask for clarification. And so I think we probably have a little bit of a wide berth as my board, as Board of County Commissioners, to say if that serves a tourist purpose or not. And I think, I don't want to say, you know, I think some of the, you know, as we heard from Captain Turbin a couple months ago, you know, how we're deploying one of the largest artificial reefs with all the debris from the bridge, that the turtle monitoring was part of the beach renourishment and that grant. And so that's, I think we all think that the beach is part of tourism and that's part of being able to renourish it. So in that sense, so I do feel, and so I've printed out at least one of the documents that the clerk sent showing the uses from the last 3 years to show that there wasn't anything on there that I felt at least wasn't discussed by this board and approved or discussed, you know, so it wasn't the Board of County Commissioners just approving funds to be spent without at least bringing it to this board first, which
The only thing that was spent is all the money you spent on the bridge never got authorized by this board.
Yes, it was. It was.
When was it?
It was in March of last year, I think?
It was.
Or no, it would have been this meeting last year. It was February. It was authorized.
Commissioner Bender, all I'm saying is I'm happy to pay 5 cents at Pensacola Beach RV Resort, even though there's no advertisements for RV resorts. I'm happy to do it, but I want Julian McQueen, and I want our gentleman at the other end of the table to feel like that we've spent the first 4 cents properly. How can we do that?
Sure. So actually, the statute had just been changed, I think, a year or two prior, in that we had to do a study to show the financial impact that the bridge has to show why that money could be spent. And so we had the Haas Center perform that and show.
Totally kidding.
I know, but I'm saying like we did that, but we did bring it in front of this board, and that was part of the process to do it because it was a capital improvement project. So again, I think part of, at least how I interpreted it, part of the discussion that we had last time was what has the money actually been spent on? And I feel like the clerk was able to at least lay that out in the document that I provided, and that it was as we stated. And in terms of some of the other things, I feel confident that the clerk does verify that that expenditures are eligible to be paid out of TDT. But if we're looking at more to get an answer on these versus what's already been done, that's maybe a further discussion.
So let me just use one example of an Attorney General opinion. There was an opinion, 9266. It prohibited the purchase of all-terrain vehicles for dune erosion and protection patrol. While dune erosion and protection is an allowed TDT expenditure, they said that they may not purchase ATVs for people to go up and down the beach, monitoring those dunes and making sure that to check to see the status of them or whether or not people were damaging them, et cetera. They said that was not an authorized use. Actually refurbishing the beach, the whatever you call it, the shoreline protection, all of that is an authorized use, but not to purchase ATVs to monitor it. So purchasing ATVs to monitor turtle nests would fall into that same rule, in my opinion, that same AG opinion. I'm not an attorney, but my point of bringing this up again today is obviously whatever we presented, the audit that we presented got shot down to the county commission. But I believe that we should have, that the clerk should have a actual written, documented program of evaluating the actual cost to administer the program, the TDT program, that does not exceed 3%, and use that annually to set their budget up front, not based on the 3%, that they're allowed to get up into the statute. And also make sure that we have the uses by the county are proper and allowed, authorized by the statute. And I don't believe they are. I made a list of them, and I've given some examples of AGO opinions here that, I didn't provide the opinion. I did provide copies of that Auditor General report and the pages specific to these issues about the, about the policy. The BCC they had not, and Walton County had not adopted a written policy or procedures for calculating indirect administrative charges to the Tourist Development Council based on the actual BCC services performed for the TDC. I asked for that. The Escambia County does not have that. We do not have that either. The clerk, they had said about Walton County that had not developed a cost allocation methodology to support the administrative costs, charges for administering the tourist development tax. The clerk doesn't have a written documented cost allocation.
Mr. Chairman, and hold on a minute. Thank you. I think they said that they're in the process of developing it. It's going to take 2 years, though. Has there not been one previously in place? Sorry. Did I ask a bad question? My bad.
No.
So, has there never been a plan in place for this?
There is a plan in place.
Okay.
It is an older plan, much older plan, and we don't feel like it is current enough
Good.
for us to rely on, but it is what the county uses.
And that was something before you got into your
Yeah,
seat.
before I
That's
got
something,
here.
so
And
you
I
guys
do
are not.
delineate my budget to the
Sure.
county so they can see what I spend on treasury. That is given to them.
On the tourist development tax program?
I break it down by treasury and not, but I can percentage it out because I know who works on what. This is,
Sure.
Well,
this is what I provide to
Right.
OMB.
But the Auditor General's opinion was that it needed to be specific to the penny about having this program, this cost allocation methodology to support the administrative costs, to make sure that they were reasonable. And they had found that Walton County did not have it, and that they could not, they needed to have the methodology to support the reasonableness of the 3%
Chair
retainment.
Bear,
None of us have been prepared.
If that's what you
provided
would
that.
like to make a recommendation, by all means, make the recommendation.
Well, that's where we're headed.
That's fine.
My recommendation is that the clerk develop that program, and the county also develop their program, their policy and procedures for calculating the indirect administrative charges to the Tourist Development Council based on the actual BCC services performed for the TDC.
Now, Mr. Chairman, let's assume that instead of 3%, it's only 2.5%. What does that mean in dollars?
Well, 0.5% of, at least this year, approximately $10 million would be $50,000?
50?
I'm thinking if I did my math quickly. in
But
my
what if
head.
it comes out to be 5%?
They cannot exceed 3%.
We can.
No, you cannot.
We
Not
can-
for administration costs. The statute says it may not
Right.
exceed
For-
3%.
But for our indirect.
For indirect is a totally different,
Well, I know, but I thought you just said that you wanted the county to determine their indirect cost.
I do. They need to have
So would we not
policies.
be, I mean, I'm,
Yeah, that
I'm,
could exceed 3%, but it has to be the actual cost to administrate the program, and also not spend the tourist development tax on unauthorized expenditures.
and I agree, and that's, and that's what I've tried to say is that I don't know if any of these have been unauthorized. I mean, again, the clerk has reviewed them as they've come in. They've come in front of our board for approval. They've come in front of this board for approval. At least the allocation of some of the funds and some of these other projects. But, I mean, Madam Clerk, I mean, I think you said we could go up to a higher percent. And that's, I mean, is that this board's?
But your department does not get the money. It goes to the county commission.
Right.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
So if you ended up with 2.5% rather than 3%, what's that among friends?
A McDonald's
I don't even
trip.
know what that
I don't know why you're spending a lot of time on the 3%.
I don't either.
But, if that's what you want to do, spend your time on the 3%. But I'll go back to a larger purchase, like all-terrain vehicles. There is another AG opinion that talks about it is up to the governing body to look at all-terrain vehicles and its purpose for maintaining items. Though you're specifically focused on the dunes, go to the other AG opinion that we pulled when they wanted to buy and use those vehicles. I think there's a truck to pull a boat because you have to get in to check a reef, and there's an ATV to look at the turtles or whatever, I don't know, I'm not in that business, that pulled the opinion. It's 92 something, and it talks about the governing body has the authority to say that all-terrain vehicles can be purchased for that. It's not disallowed. So sometimes you can't take, I got a different attorney. Sometimes you can't take it straight on. You gotta go find yourself a different attorney and a different opinion. So we do a lot of research, Chair Bear. We really do, to make sure that there is authorization and approval every step of the way. I would not, all I can tell you is I have the integrity to do it right. I'm not against your audit. I'm not obstructing. And I do like something that you said. If we're going to have this fifth cent in our community, and I'm sorry, I've been looking straight at him, this fifth cent in your community, you probably do want an opinion, an outside third-party opinion that states we are good stewards of this money and how it's spent has been authorized and it is appropriate according to statute or AG opinion. Maybe that's where our focus needs to be, and you can get there on the other components that you want to drill down on. Maybe that's our focus.
So Pam,
Sir.
Is it true that Amber has done the best job of accounting of anybody?
If you're asking me, she's outstanding. I tried to
I'll
get
say
him
it.
to hire her.
I'll
You want
say
to
it.
opine on that one, Mr. Bear?
If I'm not mistaken,
I said
you offered her
I
a
got
raise
a girl
last
for
time,
you.
Jim. If I'm not, you authorized a raise for her last time. I mean,
Yeah.
we're pretty good on that.
If he can't call for an audit, he can't offer raises.
Chair, I mean, if I may,
Mr. Bennett.
I'd be happy for this board to, if there are other uses that they feel that we could be using this money for, as I've said, I've been advocating that at least $500,000 be spent towards beach renourishment each year. And if there are projects like that and other projects that this board wishes to make recommendations on to my board, I would be happy to champion those on my board. And, you know, I did not ask this board or my board for the $500,000 this year for beach renourishment, given the pandemic and how things were going. And also, I think as we tried to be good stewards of that 5th cent, you know, we did allocate that the whole first year. We pushed back the allocation. We pushed it back to start April 1st, as to give time to recover from the hurricane, and that all collections from that first year will be going to the unified budget. And so I think that's our board's commitment, to show that we are trying to use it, that we are trying to help this community recover, these businesses recover, and draw tourism. I'm glad to see that right now we're, 13-14% above last year, which would have been all pre-pandemic, and that we still look like we're having a strong spring season, and hopefully those numbers can continue. Unfortunately, those numbers are that way because of Hurricane Sally, more so than they are a rebound to our tourism. So our TDT numbers are up. I don't think our tourism's up. But if we were only strictly looking at those numbers, that's what we see. So I think the 5th Cent continues to do advertising to help some of these events recover. You know, I think that was our way of our commitment to, again, not having to have the budget slashed like it was last year, that there would be some relief there, and that they could try to plan for that the best they can. Again, my thought was that, you know, we have brought everything to this board and to our board that we said we had, and I felt that was important. If we need opinions and things like that, I support that fully, because, again, we want to make sure that we are spending it the right way, or within the statute. I think, again, the board has a little bit of leeway in what it ultimately deems as tourist related.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
When is the last time, have we done an audit? I mean, I haven't since I've been on this board, but has there been an audit done here previously?
The county does a financial audit every single year.
Right.
But as far as I know, I don't know if there's ever, or when the last time was an audit of the program, looking at the
Shirley or Nan's
expenditures.
the longest serving member.
I never know of one.
Okay.
I've never known of one.
Okay.
We split out from the chamber.
Yeah.
back in
That's right. Thanks. Appreciate it.
So what I'd like to, in light of the conversation, and I think our original purpose of discussing the audit and taking the action to recommend the audit was to try to get our arms around the expenditures and the programs as we've been describing and discussing. And so maybe the originally intended audit was through the clerk's office, and engaging their contracted auditing firm, accounting firm, was the wrong path, because it is broad in what we're looking for, and maybe that's not what they do. But the Auditor General of Florida does it. And so I'd like to ask if this board has the interest of us reaching out to the Auditor General to ask them to audit the TDT program, looking at all of our expenditures, and find if we have issues that we can address them and correct them. And if everything's great and we're doing great, at least we know that, and we can use what we're doing and where we're spending the money as a baseline, because we as a board, as a council, have to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners what we think is in the best interest of developing tourism. And so, although some of these expenditures may be acceptable and authorized under the statute, maybe we don't think that they're the best use of those funds to develop tourism. And so we're obligated to recommend another way, how this board together agrees that these monies should be spent to develop our tourism in the county. So I don't know if I'm making a motion, or I don't have a gavel, so I can't make a motion, but if somebody wants to.
Before you move forward, and let me ask you, because it sounds like you're getting towards a motion. Are you wanting that motion to work concurrently with what the clerk has asked, is to work in unison also, or excluding that? excluding that ask.
And I have the same question, and I want to make sure that you understand where your authority will be received, because I don't think the Attorney General is really where you will be going, so you might want to restate your motion.
The Auditor General is who I
You
was.
want to do, but your authority for TDC in the statute is DOR. I don't know.
That is our authority or responsibility is to report to DOR
Right.
what we believe are unauthorized expenditures. There's nothing in the statute that prohibits us from requesting the Auditor General to do an audit.
And that's what I was going to say. You might want to ask Allison Rogers as to what your avenue might be, just so if they have to, the county needs to do it in concurrence or something, it will be able to move faster. That's it. And I want to know, am I going to be a part of that, and will we still be meeting?
Never mind the Auditor General, just try to satisfy us that the first 4 cents have been spent on things.
When you make the scope this big, it has to go to the county. When you bring the scope a little bit tighter, there's some things I can do for you. So that's why I'm really trying to listen to your motion and understand really where you're going and why. I'll be
And
quiet.
that we never spent enough money on RV resorts.
Darren, I'm willing to give you guys a little bit more money just for that, if we can. David, how about this? Could maybe a cursory review could be some of the things that you mentioned this, maybe just this entire list that you have on this page 3 or 4 here, and see what they come back with. And then if it leads to
Who are you referring to?
whoever you want to send it to. And because I think you've probably highlighted the ones that concern you the most. And so I think if these pass, then I think we get an answer. If they don't, then I think then we open it up to everything and have them do a whatever they want to, call the doctor in and.
Well, I think we're at a point where we just need to get our arms around the whole program. And so there are specific items that I listed. I did say et cetera at the end, because there's more. I just didn't want to take up 3 pages of what I thought might be unauthorized expenditures. But what I'm asking is if the board is interested, if they have the appetite for asking the Auditor General of Florida, us formally sending them a letter asking them to audit our program. If there is an appetite, then I can pass the gavel, make a motion, or entertain a motion from someone else.
Again, I'm happy to support a letter to them. I don't know if the full audit is required. I think if we start here and see what that comes back, and then go from there. I'm happy to support whatever. I want full and open. So yeah.
And excuse me, Commissioner, I'm sorry about that. I'd certainly like a couple of bites of the apple, not just one, not at the state level. I would like multiple bites here and then some bites there. Because I think, I think.
What do you mean?
Well, yeah, put it in English. I think if we take a look at some of these things and we have some answers back on these, then just me personally, and this is no indication of how I'm voting, but I would think that if we looked at it here and said, okay, there may be some impropriety, or maybe there's something that somebody else didn't see, right? Then we could take it to the state level at that point, but I'm open for conversation, and that's why I think maybe we just have some discussion on this. Maybe that's the best thing.
So let me give a shot here. That authorized the chair to send a letter to appropriate oversight agencies requesting clarification on expenses of our TDT.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Does that encompass everything you think you need to do?
So when you say agencies, oversight agencies, Attorney General, Auditor General, any,
Department of
Department of
Revenue,
Revenue.
those all would be included.
so, okay. No discussion, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I can't vote. Sorry. Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. And yes, Pam, I will still meet with you and discuss the program and the issues. I'll give you a call. Thank you. All right. Is there any other discussion anybody wants to have about the audit? This item, agenda item? If not, that is the end of our agenda, and I will call this meeting to adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.